Welcome to For You Radio, where the gospel's for the believer and the unbeliever alike. I'm Craig D'Onofrio, pastor of Redeemer Lutheran Church in Willmar, Minnesota.
I am Troy Neujahr, pastor of St. Peter's Lutheran Church, Shaker Heights, OHIO.
Yes. We would love to have you come and worship with us. Come join our churches and worship our Savior, Jesus Christ. We're also happy to be part of 1517.org's podcast network. Go to 1517.org during the month of June here. We are having a podcast-a-thon. That's the phrase that I've invented here. But we are asking you to make your best gift to the work of 1517.org, which supports this podcast and many like it, as well as a publishing house and videos for free for you and your church and all sorts of great stuff. So
it is, of course,
1517.org.
Podcast network fundraiser, of course.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Looking to raise $150,000 to support your favorite podcast. Apparently,
right.
too, looking at this now, your gifts are matched dollar for dollar.
Ooh.
Yes.
That is correct. I forgot about that.
So
glad you brought that up.
Very nice. And there is still time.
There is time.
Yes.
So go check out 1517.org and look at all the resources there, but also help support this and other podcasts like this one. Make your best gift now. Okay, so we are still talking about this guy named Samson.
Yes, and if you wanted to email us about Samson, you do that at foryouradio@1517.org.
You know, I don't think we did that last
Probably
episode
didn't,
either.
but that's okay.
Yeah.
If you want to know where to email us, go back to other episodes. That's all I'm saying.
foryouradio@1517.org. Yes.
Didn't I say that? I said that,
yes,
right?
you did.
Okay,
I was just reinforcing. This is the oral tradition.
Okay.
Where we say the same thing over and over again, just to drive it home, right?
We are still in the book of Judges, where people we don't expect to be these kinds of people end up foreshadowing Jesus.
Yes. Yes. So, if you remember in the previous chapter, we had all sorts of stuff going on. The angel of the Lord shows up to Samson's mother and says, although you're barren, you're going to have a child, and he's going to be a Nazirite, so don't drink any booze, and, kind of fulfill this Naziritic vow. And his father did what fathers in this situation do. They just have a hard time understanding it, and then he comes face to face with the angel of the Lord, and they do a face plant, and they worship God. Now, anything else worth mentioning before we move on?
I am constantly just tickled by your recap skills.
Thank you.
You have a very unique way of just kind of up to this point. Yeah. The super important stuff there is that the whole time they're talking to the angel of the Lord, which we should understand as being the pre-incarnate Christ. So there is pre-incarnate Christ speaking to them, prophesying to them. And the Lord is going to do something through this miracle child that will deliver his people from their oppressors.
Yes.
Yes. And boy, that gets pretty good. As we'll see today, Samson is not pretty good. Frankly, he's not the kind of guy we should be reading about in Sunday school and vacation Bible school. I gotta tell you,
not so much.
That's always the story. That's the Sunday school story. Samson. Let's just put it this way. I would not let my young children watch the Samson movie.
Yeah, well, I've often said that the whole book of Judges should be made into some sort of a graphic novel, cartoon kind of thing where there's, just very busty women and blood and guts everywhere. It's
graphic it would be. Yes, a very graphic novel. Yeah.
Rated R. Rated R.
My goodness.
Okay, so, Troy, I'm thinking back to seminary. And I had a couple of professors who were quite proper. And they would refer to people of low culture and call them Philistines. And I think what we find out here is that whereas the Israelites and the Philistines are enemies, what you're going to find out is that Samson kind of acts like a Philistine as we move forward here. In
does.
some pretty bad ways. So, jump into 14 here.
Shall we? Chapter 14, verse 1 of Judges. You reading or me?
Go for it.
I shall read. Samson went down to Timnah, and at Timnah he saw one of the daughters of the Philistines. And he came up and told his father and mother, I saw one of the daughters of the Philistines at Timnah. Now go get her for me as my wife. Okay. But his father and mother said to him, Is there not a woman among the daughters of your relatives or among all our people that you must go take a wife from the uncircumcised Philistines? But Samson said to his father, Get her for me, for she is right in my eyes. That's my Samson impression.
Yeah.
Here we go. Verse 4, though. Tricky.
She's hot. That's what he's saying. That chick's hot.
Yes. Verse 4, his father and mother did not know that it was from the Lord, for he was seeking an opportunity against the Philistines. At that time, the Philistines ruled over Israel.
Yeah.
Now, interesting. Yeah, so just a number of bizarre stuff, right? Again, Samson likes the ladies. So apparently he just goes down to Timnah, sees this girl?
Mm-hmm.
Sees this girl and he wants to seize her, apparently. I think is kind of the way it ends up being, right? That
Yeah.
I don't know where he sees her. I don't know where he gets this idea, but he goes back home and says, I saw this girl, go get her for me. Here's where the town was? I don't know. I mean, what's he say? But the father and mother have a valid question, right?
Yeah.
Why?
Don't you think that you could marry someone from our own faith?
Yeah, there you go. From within our own people, which, by the way, isn't Samson supposed to be doing that as an Israelite?
Yes. Right.
Yeah. There are pretty clear commandments in the Old Testament about not marrying outside of Israel.
Yes.
Why? Because they'll become a trap to you.
But
Yes.
she was hot.
But she's hot.
So,
yeah.
That's the thing is, so many guys are, once again, we're Israel, right? So many guys are led astray by a pretty face or a great body or whatever. And they don't use their brains at all, but the Lord has his ways and he's like, all right, I can take Samson and all of his hormonalness and I can use this here because it's time to get rid of the Philistines, right?
Well, yeah. And that's a little complicated for me because, and it shouldn't be, but the Lord deliberately kind of provoking a situation using Samson's inherent youthful lustiness.
His weakness. We'll say weakness.
Yeah, his weakness.
Right?
His krypton, right? Wait, no. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's kryptonite.
Kryptonite. Thank you.
There you go.
Krypton is the planet. Kryptonite is the stuff, right?
I just imagine him going, get her for me, for she's right in my eyes. It's like... and you pointed out that in the Hebrew, it's smooth in my eyes. Now that she's looking mighty sleek. Okay.
My goodness. Yeah. Super interesting. Yeah. And again, okay, Samson, you go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. It just starts to get even more weird now. And why don't you go ahead? Unless you were about to say something else.
No. I was about to say chapter 14, verse 5.
There you go.
Then Samson went down with his father and mother to Timnah, and they came to the vineyards of Timnah. And behold, a young lion came toward him, roaring. Then the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him, and although he had nothing in his hand, he tore the lion in pieces, as one tears a young goat. did not tell his father and mother what he had done. He went down and talked with the woman, and she was right in Samson's eyes.
Okay, so this is kind of weird. He kills this lion, and it says he tore it in pieces as one tears a young goat. Now, I don't know about this much, but was there a habit of tearing young goats apart? Or I don't know. I'm just
probably if you're
trying to figure out that whole colloquialism there.
Well, if you okay, so you got a ghost. You got a goat on the roasting spit there, and you would tear off the hunk of it there, right?
Oh, okay, yeah. Maybe.
I mean, I can see that.
Off a shank.
I can see that. I don't think they're going around picking up young goats and say, "Watch this."
I know. I'm like,
no, I don't think they're doing that at all. That's horrible.
Right? Okay, well that makes sense.
But
that makes
more importantly, though, beginning of verse 6, the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him. So
yeah, isn't that interesting?
The Spirit of Yahweh, the Spirit of God, falls upon Samson and gives him supernatural strength.
Mm-hmm.
This is not his own natural strength. He's not. I mean, we always imagine Samson being this huge, buff, muscular dude. He doesn't have to be. He could be a beanpole. But God gives him strength.
Okay. All right.
Now, the part that confuses me is he walking like 10 steps behind his mother and father? It's like one of those weird movie scenes where all sorts of stuff happens and they're just completely ignorant. I don't know.
Wait, he went down with his father and
right?
Mother, right? Yeah. That is weird.
I don't know. Let's say that he got separated at some point, right? He's alone, and
they obviously, they're not in earshot here, obviously, right?
I would think not. No.
Yeah.
So, by the way, this is the first time he's talked with the woman, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if he's got like blood and guts all over him or something also. And he's like, hey, how you doing? And it's like, yeah, you know what? So, okay.
And again, she was right in Samson's eyes.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
And I got to say this, though, too. She was right in Samson's eyes, but is she right? The answer is still no.
No.
The Lord God has said, do not marry outside of Israel. You Israelites should marry Israelites. There's some really important stuff about that. But it's right in Samson's eyes.
Right.
And just a good reminder for us that just because you might think it is right, well, there is a way that seems right to a man, but in the end it leads to death.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Good one. Yeah.
And again, I think that's probably the emphasis of the writer here in Judges. She was right in Samson's eyes. Verse 8.
Yes.
Verse 8. After some days he returned to take her. And he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion, and behold, there was a swarm of bees in the body of the lion, and honey. He scraped it out into his hands and went on, eating as he went.
That's gross. That's just...
And he came to his father and mother and gave some to them, and they ate. He did not tell them that he had scraped the honey from the carcass of the lion. Scrape some honey out of a dead body. Like you do.
Sammy, why is this honey red?
Yes. Okay, so really pause for a hot second there, though.
Yeah.
What were the 3 qualifications of the Naziritic vow?
Well, no booze, no haircuts, and don't touch dead things.
Don't touch dead things.
Yeah.
What's he just do?
Reaches into a dead animal and scrapes out honey.
So violates the Naziritic vow there, right?
Violates human decency.
By the way, though, too, any food that comes in contact with a dead body is unclean and therefore is not to be consumed as an Israelite, according to Old Testament law. So
I think you got to kind of qualify this, because if you kill a lamb and eat it, you're touching a dead body or a dead thing.
Well, that's a different thing.
So, yeah.
Yeah, but okay, that's not preparation of a meal. This is a dead animal in the wild.
Yeah, just rotting.
Yeah. Which you're not supposed to go get that's not food for you either, according to Old Testament law.
Outside of the Naziritic vow, totally separate, I'm going to just say it's probably a bad policy in general to find a rotting corpse and then scrape honey out and start eating it.
Okay. See, now you're stuck on things like this, right? So just you went down that road with his mother, like, okay, don't drink booze because you're pregnant. But again, there's more. There's more to this. It's really symbolic. Because not only does he break his Naziritic vow, not only does he eat food that's unclean according to his Israelite law, he gives his mom and dad some.
Yeah, fourth commandment issue going on.
He makes them unclean as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not honoring his father and mother with this.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Plus, he's being deceitful about it by not telling them, right? So
sure, right.
You've got that going also.
Yeah. So, again, Samson, not a great guy. Certainly not a role model. I don't know why we tell this guy's story to kids. Okay, so
starting in verse 10 here, I got to say also that his father isn't necessarily a really good dad because he hasn't really set up any good boundaries for the boy. So there's that.
He's very indulgent, yes.
I would say so.
In their defense, though, Mom was pretty old before they had this child, so they probably spent most of his life spoiling him.
Yeah. I mean, he got the only child thing going on, but then again, old and barren and only child, you really got something going on there. Yeah.
Read to us, though, please, verse 10 and following.
Okay, verse 10. His father went down to the woman, and Samson prepared a feast there, for so the young men used to do. As soon as the people saw him, they brought 30 companions to be with him, and Samson said to them, "Let me now put a riddle to you. If you can tell me what it is within the 7 days of the feast and find it out, then I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothes." Now, this is a day and age where if you had 2, you were kind of special. "But if you cannot tell me what it is, then you shall give me 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothes." And they said to him, "Put your riddle that we may hear it." And he said to them, "Out of the eater came something to eat, and out of the strong came something sweet." And in 3 days, they could not solve the riddle. Should we stop there or keep going?
Yeah, we can pause there. Okay. All right. Once again, I'm cranky with Samson. I hadn't caught this before. I did a little study on this before we recorded. But Samson prepared a feast there. And you think, okay, yeah, the classic biblical pre-wedding banquet, right? Except it's not. For one,
it's kind of a drinking party, right?
Well, yeah. So for one, the writer tells us, for so the young men used to do. So the Philistine young men would get together for this party for 7 days before the wedding. So you already know where this is going.
Yeah,
this is a full-on rager bachelor party for 7 days, and also this word here. That's the final tip-off. This word translated as feast. Many other places in the Old Testament used for a drinking festival, a drinking bout. So in addition to touching the dead carcass, now Samson is, I think, being implied that he's drinking alcohol.
Right.
And I think I said last week that he doesn't. I was wrong.
I don't know that it's explicit here that he's drinking, but he's certainly providing booze for people, and you would assume that he's partaking also.
Oh, providing booze for people, like someone else we know in Capernaum.
Oh, hey,
yeah, a little bit different, but
that's a good thought.
Yeah, but
he doesn't make it out of water. But there's that. Yeah.
No, good point, right? Yeah, but I think it's a pretty strong implication here. I think the writer of Judges is being a little judgy on Samson, and rightly so. These 30 guys aren't Samson's buddies. They are just apparently guys from the town.
Surrogate buddies.
Yeah, there we go. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well.
And then again, like you said, hey, 30 changes of clothes. That's a lot.
Right.
That's a lot.
And honestly, in those days, if you had like 2 changes of clothing, you were ahead of most people. You were doing pretty well.
Well, okay. So that, by the way, is the mark of a poor guy, and I forget exactly where it is. But if you take a poor man's cloak as a pledge in the Old Testament law, you are to return it before nightfall, because otherwise he will have nothing to sleep in.
Right.
Indicating he has,
also.
Yeah. He doesn't even have 2 changes of clothing. Right. Yeah. So just one. Yeah. Yeah. So, my goodness, can you imagine just the luxury of being able to change clothes every single day?
Yep. For a month.
Wow. Yeah. Even 30 linen garments, that's probably underwear. So can you imagine the luxury of changing your underwear every day?
Wow. That's crazy. Because I found if you just turn them inside out, you got day 2, and then you can flip them around day 3, and then turn them inside out again. Day 4. It's good. Okay. So he puts this riddle to them, and of course, it's his own inside story. So how in the world are they supposed to know that it's like, I scraped the guts of a lion and got honey, and it's like, what? I don't know. So
you know what? I think that's also there too, because he hasn't told anybody, right? And not his parents, not anybody.
Right.
Certainly not his new wife person. So yeah. In 3 days they could not solve the riddle, and you're right, because it's not really a riddle. Yeah, it's an inside story.
It's like, you stub your toe last night, and I'm like, hey Troy, what did I do last night? And I don't know. I wasn't with. How would I know that? So anyway,
however,
on to verse 15.
They accepted the challenge, which is, by the way, how Bilbo beat Smeagol. Right? What do I have in my pocket?
Yeah.
Well, that's not fair. Oh no! You took it up. You took the challenge. Now it's fair. That's the rules.
Yeah.
Yes. And riddling is deadly serious, by the way, in the time too. Right?
I guess
yes.
so.
Yeah. On the 4th day, this is great. So 4 days into the 7th day drinking fest. Whew. On the 4th day, they said to Samson's wife, entice your husband to tell us what the riddle is, lest we burn you and your father's house with fire. Have you invited us here
subtle.
Have you invited us here to impoverish us? And Samson's wife wept over him and said, you only hate me. You do not love me. You put a riddle to my people, and you've not told me what it is. I said to her, behold, I have not told my father and my mother. Shall I tell you? She wept before him the 7 days that the feast lasted. And on the 7th day he told her, because she pressed him hard. Then she told the riddle to her people. The men of the city said to him on the 7th day, before the sun went down, what is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion? Pause.
Yeah.
Bad place to pause, but yes.
So we're going to see this over and over again. The guy has a blind spot when it comes to the ladies, right?
Right. Yes. Yes.
And the boy's hormones, they just rule him. That's all there is to it. He's ruled by his hormones. Yeah.
And frankly, she just nags him into it. She's crying into it, and he just can't deal with it anymore, right?
It's not fair. I mean, she's using tears against him, and that's a horrible weapon. I mean,
yes. Yeah. So, but what a great way for this story to just develop, and I really do like the literary features of the Bible, to where there are stories that just are written so wonderfully and develop so beautifully that you're like, this is really nice. Now, there's deeper meaning, of course, but I always like to see stuff like that. And especially like the drama implied on the 7th day before the sun went down. So Samson's this close to saying, oh, I've got me 30 changes of clothes coming. Right. And they're like, Samson, what's sweeter than honey? What's stronger than a lion?
He's like, she told him. But right. I love the subtle, loving friendship and family sense that you get. Entice your husband to tell us what the riddle is, lest we burn you and your father's house. Like,
right? Ooh.
No wonder why she's crying, right?
Yes.
Because these guys are going to light her on fire. So, yeah.
Gonna burn you in the house you're in. And also, too, with that, have you invited us here to impoverish us? Again, indicates what a great, big, huge deal this 30 changes of clothing is.
Right.
Unless we forget, all of this is set up by God because he's looking for an excuse to go after the Philistines.
Yeah, he's trying to provoke a battle here.
And he's about to get one. So,
yeah. And he said to them,
yes,
if you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have found out my riddle. So is he referring to the bride as his heifer? Is that...
gentlemen, I really encourage you to try that.
No, don't.
And then email us at 4uradio at 1517.org.
Tell us how it went.
With pictures of your black eye. Yeah. I'm not actually sure. That just sounds so much like a euphemism, but I don't think it is. I think it's actually just probably a colloquialism. You did something you're not supposed to do.
Right.
Okay, you don't plow with a heifer. You plow with an ox. Right. So, I think, you broke the rules. You went out of bounds. You did something stupid. You plowed with the heifer. Right. But, But he clearly catches on, like you said. Oh, she told you, didn't she?
Right.
Because she's the only one who knows. He's the only one that he is told. She's the only one he is told. Verse 19, but again, this happens. And the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him. Well, you know what's going to happen now. And he went down to Ashkelon and struck down 30 men of that town and took their spoil and gave the garments to those who had told the riddle. In hot anger, he went back to his father's house. And Samson's wife was given to his companion who had been his best man.
And that is the job of the best man, is to step in and take one for the team if the groom runs away.
Apparently so. Yeah.
Yeah. So he goes down. He's like, I don't have 30 sets of garments here. Well, I'll just go kill 30 guys and take theirs. Mm-hmm. And so, you imagine he shows back up with, a cart full of garments, and he's like, here are a bunch of bloody garments for you.
There you go. I was going to say blood soaked. Yep. There you go.
Right. There you go. My debt's paid.
Yeah.
Good
Dumps
luck.
him out.
And he's ticked off and he goes home, right?
I mean, yeah. Stomps back home all the way. Just stomp. Just in hot anger, right? So, of course, all this story then makes us think immediately of Jesus, right?
How? When Jesus killed the 30 Philistines and took their clothes?
I don't know. It's a bit of a stretch, but we do know the judges do prefigure Christ somehow. We do know that the Lord himself is engineering this scenario. And of course, the pre-incarnate Christ himself had showed up. And about the only thing I can get here, what Samson does is invade the foreigner's land and victoriously, in great strength, in the Spirit of the Lord, conquers them. I think he invades the enemy's territory and conquers them in the Spirit of the Lord.
There's a little bit of a wink and a nod in chapter 10. His father went down to, verse 10 rather. Samson prepared a feast there, for so the young men used to do. And so this is also one of those things, you prepare a feast for me in the presence of my enemies, right? So you do have a little bit of a gracious foretelling of Christ in that.
But even we think about what Jesus does. He invades the enemy's territory. In the Spirit of the Lord, he conquers the enemy, vanquishes the enemy, and he gives the benefits of that victory to us. So, don't look too closely at Samson, but if you squint, you see Jesus.
There you go. Well, we'll call it quits there. Until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you in his grace. Go to 1517.org. We'll see you later. 4U Radio is a 1517.org production. To listen to this radio broadcast and broadcasts like this one, I invite you to visit 1517.org. There you will also find many publications and free resources, including classes on Christian apologetics, church history, philosophy, and so much more. We are completely funded by generous donors like you. Would you consider making a generous gift to our work of spreading the gospel? Simply visit 1517.org.